Hey guys, Morktorgus here. So today I wanted to talk about the patch notes for the upcoming patch for Legends of Runeterra Patch 1.6. This is the Spirit Blossom patch. There's a Spirit Blossom event coming to both this game as well as League of Legends. I'm excited about it for both of them. It seems like there's going to be a lot of cool cosmetic stuff coming, and at least in League of Legends, there's going to be a couple new champions, it seems like. So that's really cool. But we're going to be checking out the different changes that are coming to Legends of Runeterra with this patch. I basically just want to go through them, give you guys an analysis of what I think of them, and kind of give you my perspective on what I think is going to change in the meta based on these changes in the upcoming time after the patch goes live. So the first card we're looking at is Heimerdinger. So basically, he is having his turrets reworked. So the 3-mana turret becomes his Fearsome turret, the 4-mana turret becomes his Overwhelm turret, and the 6-mana one is his Elusive turret. So we're going from, we had this situation where the 3-mana turret was the elusive one. It was very easy to get off a lot of 3-mana spells that generate all these elusive turrets, and then you put that threat down, you put a lot of damage into your opponent. It's very hard to deal with for a lot of different decks, and it made the Heimer such a big problem that you need to get rid of him as fast as possible. And they'd have these burst things like Flash of Brilliance and Twin Disciplines that you'd use to protect him and stuff like that. All that kind of thing. Having it be on 6 for the elusive, the 6-mana spells are super awkward and not really played in any decks, at least in Piltover and Zon. In other strategies from other regions, you might be running 6-mana spells, so maybe those work with it then, but even at that point, it's still a lot slower for sure. And also, they're going to be making a change to Flash of Brilliance as well, going to 4 mana. So, beyond the initial thing, he's going to be a lot weaker, a lot less oppressive, even if you do the similar strategies that you did before. Fearsome is a much, much weaker keyword, as you will notice if you try to play with Fearsome in a lot of different decks. Definitely doesn't stack up against elusives, that's for sure. I think Heimerdinger is a very cool champion, and I'm glad that hopefully this just makes him more of a fun champion, less of an oppressive champion. I don't think he's going to be top tier for sure anymore after these changes. But hopefully he still finds a place somewhere with some deck. Maybe not immediately, for sure, with his current situation, but I'm glad they changed him. All those turns where I got whacked for exact lethal from a empty board state with his elusive attackers, it's just the worst feeling ever, so I'm glad that I won't have to deal with that anymore. The next big change is to Braum. So Braum is going from 1 attack to 0 attack. Riot basically knew that Braum was going to be pretty overpowered when they made him get his buff initially to get the 1-1-5 stat line. He has been extremely powerful. I'm surprised I haven't seen him in more decks, honestly. He was quite popular for a while, but I saw him less and less. He's definitely made a huge impact in the Braum Anivia deck, basically carrying you through the mid game until you get to the point where the Anivias can actually do anything. And I think that him going back to 0 attack, it certainly weakens you a lot against a lot of faster strategies that do have a lot of 1 health things. Being able to take out that kind of stuff easily with your Braum was a very good upside to having him, but you're still getting your 3/3. Like, he's still an insane guy. People like to play Braum even before he got buffed. I certainly did. I thought he was one of my favorite champions, if not my favorite champion. That's not changing just because he lost his one attack. You can still buff him up and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's probably a good idea for them to do. He was definitely very ahead of the power curve. Even now, he's probably going to be really solid. And I'm still going to be playing him a lot, even though they made the change. Also, his level 2 attack went down by 1, but he still gets some attack on his level 2 phase, unlike how he used to be, where he would go from 0.5 to 0.7. But yeah, I think they're doing a great job changing this as well. Then we got Anivia getting addressed, the egg is going from 2 health to 1 health. I don't think this will be super relevant, but it isn't irrelevant, that is for certain. There are a few effects that are able to deal 1 damage. I think in the most common case, this is going to be relevant in a mirror match against another Shadow Isles deck, because they do have a few like Vile Feast or Withering Wail, that kind of a thing to be able to deal with that 1 health. In other cases, I can't really think of a ton of other situations where this would matter, given that you need like a challenger that deals 1 damage but not 2 damage, or other removal like that. Maybe you're getting off a cheap Thermo Beam for 1 mana that finishes it off. Regardless, the fact that it's getting changed at all is definitely going to make it a little bit weaker. I think it won't be a crazy difference. I think once you get the Anivia train rolling, it's got a lot of momentum. But the fact that you can break these eggs in cases where you couldn't before is definitely a good change. I know I have a lot of people on my stream who don't enjoy playing against Anivia decks, and this might help them a little bit. I doubt it. But yeah, nonetheless, it's a good change, like all the other ones have been, and I'm happy to see it. Then we have Relentless Pursuit. So Relentless Pursuit's a weird one, because I constantly talk about how I see people use it at slow speed, and they even address that here, is that it is generally used at slow speed by most people. But honestly, I see a lot of people use it at slow speed when they should have used it at fast speed. And, I mean, as you get better players, I guess they wouldn't do that. But, I think this really won't do much at all. Making it slow just gives you a little bit of more time. Like, maybe they drop that Relentless Pursuit right before your attack when you could have pressured for lethal, but instead they get to do their attack and they pressure for lethal. Some sort of scenario like that. But either way, I think it's a very minor change, and they might as well make a change like this. It does make it just slightly less oppressive, and it is kind of a feeling that is a little bit oppressive. So that's always a good idea, but I really don't think it's going to change the application of it a whole lot. I think it's, for the most part, going to be in the same decks doing the same stuff. I don't think anyone's pulling it out of their deck because it's slow. I think if you were running it already, you're still running it, and it's just going to change the way it plays out from time to time. Then we have Arena Bookie, a card that has not seen much play, getting buffed. And I do love that about Riot, is that they are willing to buff cards to try and get them to find some play. And that is something that coming from Hearthstone as the game that I used to play a lot until very recently, the fact that you have pretty significant and constant buffs to cards that you could keep trying new things and stuff, definitely love seeing that. So this one is going from a 3-mana 2/1 to a 2-mana 2/2. Hell of a lot better. potentially not that strong still. Like a 2-mana 2/2 is good. It does let you start cycling stuff. I think you could foreseeably use this as a draw engine in a discard-based deck, just to get through stuff. With Draven, of course, people paired Draven's axes with this in... I mean, it's a concept that's existed. It's just not really been a competitive one before. So I'm definitely excited to try this, and we're going to see that there's more discard-based stuff like this, and I'm going to want to try all of it for sure. It's going to be cool. And we have Basilisk Rider. This is going to be the first of multiple Noxus nerfs, which, thank God, because that's one of the things I've been hating the most about this meta right now is the Noxus aggro. Although I feel like Harrowing's probably my biggest problem with it, as I like to tell people. But this is certainly not irrelevant stuff that's happening here. So we got the Basilisk Rider buff, I guess 2 patches ago now, because there was that mini patch in between. But this one is going from 5 power to 4 power. It still gets the buff that brings it to 5 power when it gets the allegiance, but it doesn't go to 6, which is what it was doing before. I think the fact that they've now, at this point, made it go up 1 health and down 1 attack probably would have been a good idea to start with, but the fact that we did get this surge of play from it being so powerful that it was is probably good for the card and its future prospects. If you just made that initial like up 1 down 1 change, maybe would have been less interesting to people at first. I think this will still be plenty strong. It was just really, really strong. Like, when it got that extra health, the health was very significant in making it really hard to deal with. And the amount of attack it had, you'd just never be able to block all the damage. It was way too much. A lot of decks don't have huge health totals to be, like, just chumping these overwhelms with. So it's really good that will be less oppressive. I'm happy to see it. It definitely deserved to be changed. And then the next one is Crimson Disciple, which is possibly the most complained about card by me. In terms of Noxus cards, maybe not every region, but certainly in Noxus and over the most period of time, basically since like Burn was happening, and it's been a staple in pretty much every Noxus deck like ever since then, because it's just so good. It does so much damage. So now it's doing 1 less damage every time it survives damage, which, my god, it drops the amount of damage that it can put out. It's still good. Like, it's still a 2-mana 2/3 with an upside that is consistent and keeps happening. It still has that great synergy with transfusion and stuff like that. But this combined with the Basilisk Rider change and the next change with the Legion Grenadier, I really just think that the amount of aggression in the game is going to go down substantially, or at least the form of it is going to change substantially. And this was just so, especially combined with the Demolitionist, it was such a crazy amount of damage and combo to have there on 2 well-statted minions. It's just, I'm glad it's another change that I've been asking for, and we're actually getting it. And I feel like a lot of these changes are just changes people were asking for, and they're getting it, which is definitely good to see. And then we have Legion Grenadier, not exactly one I would have thought of, but it's not unwelcome. It does cause some friction a lot of the time because of its the fact that killing it doesn't really solve your problem, but you do need to kill it because it has 3 attack. So they gave it 1 extra health, but made its Nexus damage go down. That definitely changes it a decent amount. It was very squishy. Now you can actually pressure your opponent. They can't just put a spider or some useless crap in front of it anymore. That doesn't help them as much. you still get to keep it around. And, you know, the 1 damage difference does change things, especially when Legion Grenadier coming off of your Harrowing is one of the upsides, and the Basilisk Rider. So, if you think of a Harrowing now coming off of Noxus, you're getting 2 Basilisk Riders back and 2 Grenadiers back. That's 2 less damage on the Basilisk Riders, because one less attack, 1 less attack, 1 less dying damage, 1 less dying damage. You're living 4 less damage to your Nexus when they drop that Harrowing. The fact that I've lived with 1 health sometimes, I've died by perfect lethal so many times, like, it's gonna change things, and it potentially is going to drop the win rate substantially. I don't even know if Noxus aggro is going to be around in the form that it is right now. It might have to be changed a decent amount. But honestly, I think even with all these changes, you could probably still win certain matchups quite handily. It'll just take a little bit longer to get there. Nonetheless, great changes to these Noxus cards. The Grenadier one's a little bit different, but I think it'll be a cool take on the card after that. Then we have the Flash of Brilliance, like I said earlier. 3 mana to 4 mana. Now it is never free, because giving you 3 spell mana back after casting a 3 mana spell, you're having a net just having exactly what you had already, as long as you started with spell mana. Or that you care about spell mana, I guess is what I'm saying, not that you started with spell mana. But it certainly is going to have a big impact on Heimerdinger for one thing. Even though the fact that the turret that you were going to get if it was still 3 would have been the Fearsome turret, now it's the Overwhelm turret, and you'd probably still play this with Heimerdinger, of course. But I don't think either of these things, either the Heimer change or the Flash of Brilliance change, leave him in a great position. But he's definitely still going to be a cool card to play with. I don't think it's, like, totally terrible, and I know that I love trying things that aren't exactly tier 1 all the time. So I'll probably still play around with Heimerdinger, especially after we get the new cards in the upcoming set that we'll probably hear about in the near future. Nonetheless, even though I don't think it was super necessary to change it after what happened, it's better to be safe than sorry. And this is definitely not a bad idea to make sure that you are paying 1 mana for the effect, at least. Then we have our discard cards that are coming in. So Sump Dredger used to be 2 mana for 3, discard a card to play me. Or to play me, discard a card. Whatever wording they like to use. Now it's going up to 3 mana, and you draw a card when you discard to play it. Substantially changing what the card even means. Before, you were discarding a card as a cost to get a over-statted minion for the mana cost. It was a little bit awkward to use. You'd use it in like a Jinx deck or something, but those discard decks haven't really been a thing for a while now. But yeah, now it's a draw engine, and it's this one as well, also changing from having Last Breath draw 1 to when you play it, you're just drawing 1. They're both kind of rummage effects. I think this is going to be great. I think Jinx is probably going to become a viable thing to actually play again, which I'm going to love playing some Jinx. Like, I haven't gone to play very much Jinx at all. And I think this is just a healthy change. This was just so crap because you discard 1 and then you have to wait for it to die, and you're like probably making a really bad trade for it. It's just a Avarosan Sentry that costs 1 less, and you have to discard a card, which is so not worth, like, at all comparatively. So I think this is going to be great, and I'm going to be experimenting with it a lot. Probably immediately. Then we have Shadow Assassin. As they say here, Shadow Assassin is a near auto-include in Ionia decks. It's going from 2 power to 1 power. The amount of pressure you put on with a Shadow Assassin is getting cut so much. There is... The thing is, it's a card draw, and it's bounceable with, like, recall and stuff. You can use that as, like, a draw engine and all that. But it was also a threat that kept putting damage on every turn as long as they don't have elusives. Even if they do have elusives, you're contesting those elusives. Either way, this is such a big change. I think you might sometimes still want to run it just because you need that card draw. But honestly, it's to a degree that it's such a lot weaker in terms of the pressure that it puts on and the damage that you get in. Certain decks are definitely going to cut it out. And that's what they want to see. We don't want it to be an auto-include anymore. We want to actually make choices when we're building decks. So it's good that it's not going to be in every single Ionia deck anymore. So yeah, definitely another good change. And then we've got Steel Tempest going from 3 mana to 2 mana. So I've constantly been saying, whenever I at least notice the card, because you don't notice the card much these days, no one's touching it, that ever since they made Concussive Palm, there's been 0 reason to run Steel Tempest as a 1 less mana for I have to stun during an attack and I don't get a 3-2. So now at least it has a different function. It's cheaper, but it is more situational. So you've got the much better version that's more expensive, and the more situational version that's cheaper. That makes a lot of sense. And I think obviously there will be some consideration to running it in Yasuo decks, because, you know, Yasuo does the stun thing, and it is his spell, so it's going to be coming off of him as well. But it might make it into other decks now that it's just that cheap. Just as a defensive tool to keep your opponent from putting on too much pressure with their really big minions, especially with big overwhelm minions and stuff, if that's a common thing in the meta still. But yeah, like, I love the change. I think getting these cards that basically already got power crept out of the game back into it is cool to see. So I'm definitely going to be trying that in some Ionia decks, I imagine. Maybe messing around with Yasuo some more, honestly. But either way, a good idea, I think. And then another one that I've been thinking about a lot is a River Shaper. They're giving it 1 extra health. It's still not great, but I actually might feel like running it and stuff now. I know when I was a noob, I would definitely try to make River Shaper work, because I was like, hey, it's card draw. But it was just so small and easy to kill. It just, you wouldn't get your strike off. Like, it was so hard. Like, the fact that they say that you're trying to chase the dream of multiple procs, screw that. Try chasing 1 proc. You're not getting 1 proc off of this thing when it has 1 health. Like, it maybe 1 proc off of it. Now, like, you could potentially buff it. Oh man, I'm just coming up with a deck right here. You could buff this card with spells, and then you strike with it, you get more spells, you keep buffing it, you keep getting spells. That's an engine right there. There you go. I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen. It's still quite low statted, but it's kind of similar to that other, the Chevalier. Is that what it is? In Demacia, that also got a similar buff where they gave it 1 extra health. Obviously not a popular card, but I've seen some people run it in their Fiora or Challenger decks or whatever, and it actually is able to do stuff now because it doesn't have 1 HP, which is really sweet. So, like, this one doesn't have 1 HP anymore. It might actually get to see some play. And I like to see stuff like that because I want to play with more cards. We don't want dead cards in the game if we can help it. There's always going to be dead cards in the game, though. Don't worry about that. And then we have Will of Ionia. Super needed in nerf. Way too common. People ran all kinds of Will of Ionia all over the place. It had such a huge impact on the meta. This was one of those changes that definitely needed to happen. Recalling a unit, like, you look at Vengeance and it's 7 to kill a unit, and the difference between recalling and Vengeance, like, there's only so many situations where recalling is actually worse than killing it. In a lot of cases, it's potentially better. Like, you're having no last breaths, and they may have a play effect, but a lot of times they won't have a play effect. So, like, you just bounce it back to their hand for way less mana. It's ridiculous. Now we have it at 4, going from 4 to 5, so you're at least spending a little bit of mana. It's a little bit more close to that Vengeance level. And I think it's a great change. I think you're probably still going to run it. Just, you're not going to run 2-3 copies in literally every deck. You might actually not run it in elusive decks and stuff anymore because it's so aggressive. You're still going to need it in control-based Ionia decks and all that. But it's like total domination of Ionia decks is not going to be there. So many auto-includes getting nerfed today. It's really cool. Okay, then we got some interesting changes here. We got Golden Narwhal going from 3 to 2 on the cost and 4 to 3 on the health. So for one, that's much better costed for the mana. I mean, a 2/4 for 3 is fine, but a 2/3 for 2 is a lot better. It's still a weird, like, it's got elusive and it's got challenger, but you might actually want to play this now. Like, you're getting elusive, you're getting good stats. Your opponent might not actually be able to deal with it in a super effective way if you, like, buff it or something like that, right? So that's potentially actually gonna be somewhat impactful. I'm not really sure. I'm gonna try to make it useful in some way. But the other change, which is very closely related to this, Hunting Fleet, which summons Golden Narwhals, is going from 5 to 4 mana, and then is going down 1 on each its power and its health to a 6/6 from a 7/7. And they claim that it was just too expensive, which I agree with. I didn't really consider ever running it at that mana cost. It just seemed too awkward. At 4 to get a 6/6, and you just need something that deals 3 damage to get rid of the Golden Narwhal when you play this. That seems like a very viable situation to actually happen. And I actually think there may be a way that you actually run this. It still sucks when you play it on your opponent's turn because you're giving them an elusive to attack with, and you might need this as a blocker in some cases. And that case might be that they also only need to deal 2 damage, and then you play it, and then the Narwhal can still kill you. So you end up in a similarly screwed situation. But nonetheless, I'm glad it's just another card that they're making look more interesting than it already was, and that is a positive change for me. So overall, I'm feeling really good about this patch. Heimer's oppressive days are over. Braum not as strong anymore. He was a little too strong for what he was at there. Anivia getting addressed a little bit. We got the Noxus aggro, finally not going to be as much of a problem. And like these new discard synergies, a lot of the auto-includes in Ionia are not going to be around anymore, at least in the form that they were. Certainly much weaker than they were, that's for sure. And yeah, just lots of new things to try. Maybe not as big as the patch like 2 patches ago in terms of the amount of buffs that happened. But as we get closer to the expansion, that's not going to be as super important. We're going to be getting new cards, and that's what we're going to be messing around with. But I always love to see stuff get buffs anyways. We've also got all this new cosmetic stuff for Spirit Blossom, which looks cool. I guess they're doing deck bundles now. Not relevant to me, given that I already have basically all the cards in the game at this point. Because, you know, I stream every day. But yeah, looks great. So that's going to be it for this video. I appreciate you watching. Please leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Comment down below what you think of these patch notes, what you're going to be playing in this new patch, what you're excited about, trying out, and all that kind of stuff. And please subscribe if you'd like to see more of my content in the future. You can also check out my stream at twitch.tv/morktorkus, and there we play Legends of Runeterra every weekday, 7 p.m. PST. If you'd like to join me, that would be wonderful. Again, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one.